Good morning, everybody. We're live here from the birdhouse. It is Tuesday, October 4th. It is a chilly morning here in upstate New York. It definitely feels like fall. And today I'm giving you an update on some of the birds you can start to expect to see in your yard now that the weather is changing. The days are getting colder, they're getting shorter. And because of that, there's a lot of seasonal movement. Some birds are making their way out of the area. Some birds are just coming back. So I'll show you a little bit of both. I'll show you some of those birds that are leaving and some that you can expect to see in your yard and elsewhere if you're going out birding. So we'll be doing that today. As always, if you have any questions, you can put those in the comments. We love to know what kind of things you're seeing. You can throw those in the comments as well. Or if you just want to say hi, that's always a good thing too. But let's get started here. So first of all, talking about some of the birds that are leaving. So some of these are birds you guys might have seen in your backyards if you have structures and whatnot. Swallows are going to be leaving. Some of them have already left if you were lucky enough to have tree swallows nesting. If you've got a wide open field, you probably noticed that they have left. Barn swallows, while there might be some lingering, they're definitely on their way out as well. So unfortunately, until next year, we won't see many swallows for the remainder of the season. So they are leaving the area for the year until next spring. So swallows are on their way out. If you still see a couple, they're going to be the stragglers that are just about to leave. Same with a lot of the flycatchers like the eastern wood pewee. If you've got great crested flycatcher, they're also on their way back down south. We might have a couple pewee still around in the area. You might hear that little sound that they make still for several more days, but they are also on their way out. But we might see more Phoebe. So Phoebe tend to be here through the end of the month. So if you see a little flycatcher flying around still, it's probably going to be something like this eastern Phoebe. But a lot of our migrating birds are either gone or on the way out. A really good example of that are going to be orioles. They've been gone from most people's yards for about a month or so. And hummingbirds as well. Although we've gotten a few accounts here and there of some hummingbirds still migrating through, for the most part, hummingbirds are gone for the season as well. But coming into the area are dark-eyed junco. Over the past week, we've been getting more and more reports of dark-eyed junco, and you can absolutely attract these guys to your backyard. They're in the sparrow family, and they'll sometimes feed from feeders, but really where you're going to see them is underneath the feeders, and they'll be popping around underneath the feeders, cleaning up any kind of seeds that have spilled. They really like things like millet. So if you have a blend, something like our deluxe blend that has the little tiny white seeds in it, the little tiny round seeds there, that is millet. And the juncos will eat that. They'll eat sunflower seed. They'll eat sunflower hearts. So if you have any kind of a blend that has sunflower seed in it or sunflower hearts, you have really good chances of getting junco. So something like our chickadee blend here, which is our best seller, that not only has the sunflower seed in it, but it has sunflower hearts in it as well. That will give the juncos what they need, and they will pick that up from underneath your feeders. So be on the lookout for them. They're overall gray in color. They have a white belly and they have a little pink bill. So that is the dark-eyed junco. And here's a picture that was sent in by Mark, who saw some dark-eyed junco recently. So they are back in the area. And as the weeks go on, we'll hear of more and more coming through. So be on the lookout for these guys underneath your feeder. Another thing to be on the lookout for are going to be pine siskin. So it's yet to say if we're going to have a large amount of pine siskin coming into the area, if it might be kind of a minimal amount, but you can look for pine siskin on your Niger feeders. So if you are seeing goldfinches coming to your Niger feeders and you see something that kind of looks like a goldfinch, but it has a lot of, that is going to be the pine siskin. And so they like Niger seed. They like a blend like this, like our finch favorite, that is the Niger, and the ground up sunflower hearts there. So That is perfect for the pine siskins and, of course, the goldfinches, which are here all year round, but they are molting their feathers. Their feathers have molted, and they are not that bright gold anymore. Instead, they're more like an olive green color, kind of a brownish color, and that's how they will look for the rest of the season. So pine siskin, be on the lookout for them. I kind of sometimes say that they look like a mix between a goldfinch and a house finch. So they've got the stripes like a house finch does, but they've got some of the yellow on them as well. You can see the yellow on their wing. And then they also have a really pointed bill. So they have a really sharp pointed bill. So that's how you can tell that you've got a pine siskin there. So be on the lookout for them. I'm curious if any of you guys have seen any pine siskin yet at your feeders. So let us know, definitely. Another bird to look forward to, and they'll start rolling in even more this month, are going to be the American tree sparrow, another bird that you can look for usually underneath your feeders. Sometimes they will feed on the feeders themselves, but usually you're going to find them underneath your feeder. And you can identify them by their chestnut colored cap. So they've got chestnut color on the top of their head. They usually have a pretty defined little dot there on their breast, but then look at its bill. It has what's called a bicolored bill. So the top of it is black, and then the bottom part of the bill is yellow. So that's a pretty defining characteristic there of the American tree sparrow. So be on the lookout for them. They are going to be a bird that we have here in the winter months, but not in the spring and summer. So same with fox sparrow. This is another bird that is going to be flowing into the area a little bit more. And fox sparrow, you might see under your feeders. You're probably most likely to see them while out hiking. If you hear a bunch of rustling under some trees or shrubs, keep an eye out for fox sparrow. I've gotten one in my backyard before, very briefly, but they're going to be a larger size sparrow. So they're pretty large. They've got almost like a little pot belly going there, and they're very like a chestnut in color, like a very reddish colored sparrow. So they'll be migrating through. So be on the lookout for the fox sparrow as well. And white-throated sparrow. So this is one that you can most likely find under your feeder this time of the year. Juncos are going to be very common. And then the white-throated sparrow, probably the next one that you're most likely to see. So this is a photo sent in by Mark again, who saw some white-throated sparrow recently. He says, spotted 3 white-throated sparrow at Mendon Ponds. They seem to be back now. So they are another bird you can find right now underneath your feeders, most likely. You can tell it's a white-throated sparrow because for the most part, they'll have a pretty defined patch, white patch underneath their chin. And they do have some stripes above their eye, a big bold white stripe above their eye, and also a little yellow patch right above their eye. So keep an eye out for the white-throated sparrow, as well as this bird, the white-crowned sparrow, which is going to be larger than your white-throated sparrow. So if you look at the white-throated sparrow, they are pretty brownish in color. The white-crowned sparrow are fairly gray, an overall grayish color. They're going to be larger than the white-throated sparrow, and they're not going to have that yellow dot above their eye. So a couple different species that you can find now underneath your feeders. So be on the lookout for them. Some other birds that are rolling through now, hermit thrush. So if you see something that almost looks like a robin, but it's a little bit smaller, could very well be a hermit thrush. And they're going to be the most common thrush you'll find here this time of the year. And they have a very reddish tail. So look for that reddish, almost chestnut colored tail. And you might just happen upon some of these guys, probably not in your backyard so much, but if you are out taking a walk or out on a hike, you might just come across the hermit thrush. Same with yellow-bellied sapsucker, although they might come to your backyard. They're not necessarily a feeder bird, but if you have larger trees in your backyard, you might see them crawling up or down the tree. Yellow-bellied sapsucker are definitely flowing through the area right now. And if you make your way out to the water, you'll find that there's different ducks that are starting to come back. Our long-tailed ducks that are here all winter long, they will start coming into the area. So you can look for them, any kind of open body of water, you should be able to find some of them. Lake Ontario is a good one, around Quake Bay. So be on the lookout for long-tailed duck, as well as bufflehead, another waterfowl species, coming back to the area for the winter. Goldeneye, common goldeneye is another species to look for, another waterfowl species that haven't been here in the summer, but they are making their way back here for the winter. And you might just come across double-crested cormorants. While they're more common in the spring and summer months, we do have them here all winter. And here's a photo that was sent in, again by Mark, of a double-crested cormorant. By the water, you might also see great egret. They are migrating through, and in the fall, the great egrets come through here. We really don't see them migrating through in the spring. It's only in the fall. So be on the lookout for great egrets. Great blue heron are still around. They're in general going back down south, but every once in a while, some are spotted in the winter by some open bodies of water. Green heron. So here's another photo sent in by Mark. This is a photo of a green heron. And while we won't have them in the winter, there are still some being seen around. So be on the lookout still for green heron in the area. Gulls will have all winter long. I love this photo here. Here's an action shot. Probably it looks like of a gull going after some kind of a fish, probably in the water. This is a ring-billed gull. We also have what are called herring gulls, and here's a photo of some Caspian terns with some herring gulls, again sent in by Mark. So some gull activity, and we will have gull activity all winter long in the area. So you can look forward to that, even as the winter months come through. A whole bunch of different gulls. In fact, we'll get even more species of gulls here as we get closer to the winter months. If you're looking up into the sky, red-tailed hawk are here all year round. So this is a really common sight, but starting to make its way back into the area are going to be rough-legged hawk. So red-tailed hawks, the adults will have that nice reddish tail, which is a very good way to identify them. They will also have these markings, these kind of brownish markings along the leading edge of their wings there. They tend to have what's called a belly band, kind of a speckled belly band there, whereas the rough-legged hawk, although it does have different color morphs, this can be identified by, it has some very darker colored patches on its wings, and they're not in the same place as that band on the leading edge of the wing of the red-tailed hawk. And they also have a very dark belly patch there. So, and if you get a good look at their feet, they have feathers that go all the way down their legs, right to their feet. And that's why they're called rough-legged hawks. They don't have bare legs because they also nest up north in the tundra. So they're making their way down to this area for the winter. This is south for them for the winter. So be on the lookout for rough-legged hawks as well. And if you see something that looks like a tiny bird of prey, it could be a northern shrike, another bird that's coming down here, more common in the winter months. They have a little hooked bill. This is the bird that they're sometimes called butcher birds. They will take their prey items and impale them on different things, whether it be barbed wire is a big one that they do. Any kind of sharp object, they will impale their prey on it and then snack on it throughout the day. So look for northern shrike as well. And people have been reporting ruby crown kinglets. And ruby crown kinglets can be kind of tough to identify sometimes because they bop around really quickly. They can be hard to get in your binoculars, and you can't always see that ruby crown. It can be really hard to see or non-existent if they don't have it flared out. So if you see something that's small and bopping around a lot in the trees like a warbler, could very well be a type of kinglet, either this ruby crown kinglet or what's called a golden crown kinglet. And here's another photo sent in by Mark of a golden crown kinglet. Wonderful photo here with its head looking down, and you can see that yellow crown on the top of its head. So look for both of those. They're definitely both in the area at the moment. Brown creeper, if you see something small and brown that's going up the trunk of a tree, it's going to be a brown creeper, and they can camouflage really, really well, so they can be hard to see on the side of the tree, on the side of the bark. But they are around as well. And this could be one that you do see in your backyard. I get them every morning in the trees in my backyard. So if you see something small crawling up the tree, it's probably going to be a brown creeper. If you see something crawling down the side of the tree, it's probably going to be a type of nuthatch, whether it be a white-breasted nuthatch or red-breasted nuthatch. Could be either one of those, but if it's crawling up the tree, it's probably going to be a brown creeper. Some kind of neat sightings of birds that are flowing through the area that have been sent in. Here's some photos of what's called an American pipit. And this was sent in by Mark, again, who says he went to Braddock Bay, the east spit of Braddock Bay, and saw an American pipit. I had to ID my sightings later on. Not going to be the most common bird you'll see around here, but this time of the year they do flow through. So here's some photos of an American pipit. You never know what you'll see during migration time, including a bird like this. And here's another one, a Hudsonian godwit, again sent by Mark at the east spit of Braddock Bay. He says spotted the Hudsonian godwit at the east spit a few days ago. Fascinating with its migration. Looked it up and saw it breeds in the Arctic area. Thousands gather around Hudson Bay and they migrate to South America down to Patagonia. So really incredible, very, very long migration for the Hudsonian godwit. And here's some neat photos of it there. It's got something in its bill. So Braddock Bay, the east spit of Braddock Bay, is always a really good place to go birding. And not only did he see the Hudsonian godwit there, but also the American pipit. So very, very cool sightings there. And then finally, he also sent in some photos of warblers that are flowing through. We're getting to the tail end of that season, but you never know what you just might see out there. Here's a black-throated blue warbler. You can see it's kind of hard to see the blue, but it does have some blue on the top of its head and along its wing. And it's got a black throat and black patches along the side of its body. A couple photos of Nashville warbler that have flown through. And bay-breasted warbler as well. So still some warbler activity out there, but they are also on their way back down south for the winter months where they can find the insects that they really require for their diet. So that is what I have prepared for you guys as far as an update here on the different kind of fall birds you can see. If you guys have any questions or comments, you can absolutely put those in the comments here. Duster's on. She says, good morning. Margaret says, good morning. I've been gone most of the summer, so I'm not sure. Have you talked about this data page on the migration website? And she shares a link here. So this link, no, not specifically. I haven't talked about this, so we'll have to check this out for the next broadcast. She says it's so cool to see how many cross right above our heads. So it looks like this is a link to Birdcast. We'll look at that sometimes to see what the prediction is as far as the migration forecast and what's coming through the area. But this looks like it's a link to kind of a more specific targeted spot. So I'll have to look at that once this broadcast is over, and we'll share that data with you guys the next time here. Karen's on. She says, good morning. Pat's on, says good morning to everybody. Stephanie says, I've been hearing Carolina wrens in my yard lately. I didn't have them earlier. Such a pretty bird. I've been hearing them in my neighborhood too, here and there. And they're going to be here all winter long as well. So we have wrens like house wrens that are more of a spring and summertime bird. Carolina wrens will be here all year round. And then we'll start to get what are called winter wrens flowing through the area as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if you do hear the Carolina wrens singing even this time of the year. I've been hearing them too. They just sing and sing and sing for most of the day. Lynn says, I may have seen a pine siskin. What do you recommend feeding them? Thanks. So I would recommend feeding them Niger or our Finch favorite mix, which is a mix of Niger and ground up sunflower hearts. They absolutely love that. And you can put that in any kind of a Niger feeder. So something like this, that's just a mesh feeder, is perfect for them. They don't need perches. They can cling onto the side of a feeder. Or you can just do a standard kind of Niger feeder here. And what makes this a Niger feeder are the holes are very, very small. I don't know if you can see just how tiny those holes are. Because the Niger seed is so small, you do need a separate kind of feeder for it. If you were to put it in something like a sunflower seed feeder like this, it tends to fall out pretty easily. So you do want to get a specific feeder for that Niger seed. So you may have very well seen a pine siskin. And if it's something that looks like a pine siskin, it'll still probably feed from that feeder. So that's that same Niger feeder. So you've got your bases covered either way, whether it be a goldfinch or a house finch or a pine siskin, they will all come to that Niger feeder. So we'll be back on Saturday with another broadcast. It looks like that is everybody's comments and questions for the day. And until then, have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.